Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be doing something a bit different. This is sort of a little video essay. I'm going to be looking into the David Lynch film Inland Empire and how dialects are used, English dialects, to how they're represented and how they are used to add to the cinematic effects of the film. Convey messages to the audience, whether overtly or subliminally. And this is typically not the most common thing to do in film analysis, but I'm very interested in linguistics. This is for our linguistics class, so I'm going to kind of combine two things I like, film analysis and linguistics, into this video, and I hope you enjoy. So an early example of dialect use in the film to convey a sort of cinematic feeling or mood comes when this character, who's credited as visitor number 1, she visits the home of Nikki Grace, who's the main character of the film, played by Laura Dern. And she speaks in a sort of strange Eastern European accent. It's kind of unidentifiable, and it's obviously not her real accent, seeing that she is not Eastern European. She's an American actress, Grace Zabriskie. She pronounces things like road as rod, which is, turning the ra of standard English into the alveolar tap, which is found in Eastern European languages, and something like marriage as marriage, which is just sort of a irregular stress pattern on that word. So she's obviously doing some kind of foreign accent or imitating that, which, is kind of a strange thing to do in a film, but I will show why this is important. Now, scientific study of accent mimicry, of the production of a stereotypical accent, is understandably, it's a touchy subject, and because of that, it's hard to find much information about it. However, there has been quite a bit done looking into the perception of stereotypical foreign accents produced by actual foreigners. For example, David Sumantri and Becky Choma's accent-based stereotyping and their predictors that looked at the way Toronto English speakers perceived different English speakers based on their different accents of English and how they rated them on warmth, competency in English, things like that. So a foreign accent can be seen as uncomfortable, sort of uneasy, and maybe this sort of foreign Eastern European accent could be seen as something like that. So as you can probably tell by these film stills I'm showing, this is a very strangely filmed scene, and it's quite uncomfortable and tense. And this is also seen in the behavior of Nikki Grace, who's shot more normally, and she is very uncomfortable. She's kind of growing terrified by this visitor as she gets more and more strange. And another important thing to keep in mind in this moment is this actress played Sarah Palmer in the David Lynch film and TV series Twin Peaks. And people watching Inland Empire, this is a deeper cut in his filmography, so it's very likely they are familiar with Twin Peaks before watching this. So seeing this familiar actress in this situation, doing this accent they know is not her actual voice, it all combines to be a really, really surreal scene, a really, really surreal moment. And it's not like they're trying to represent an Eastern European accent faithfully. There are other Eastern European characters. A lot of the film takes place in Poland, and there's Polish characters speaking in Polish. So it seemed more that he wanted to create something just very surreal, very unsettling early on to kind of set the tone that this is not a normal film, that things are going to be very different going on. So another moment where we see accents being represented in the film, Nikki, who's an actress, and an actor named Devin Burke are acting in this film, which seems to be set in the South. We never really get any confirmation of this, but they both speak in Southern American English,
which we can tell. We hear the fronting of the I diphthong of General American to ah. So you hear something like apologize, and then something like the kit vowel is palatalized and diphthongized to ia. So something like Jim becomes GM. These are just standard vowel shifts of Southern American English. Another interesting thing we see is Devin Burke, initially when he's reading his lines, he drops the R in the word here to here, so no rhotic element. Here he is now. And this is the only time he really uses that. He ever drops the R, and later on he begins to use the R again, which, is a bit inconsistent, and it's unsure whether is this supposed to be just a standard variation in the southern dialect, or is it just an error on his part, as he is not a southerner. He does not speak Southern American English natively.
In R and Southern English, Eric R. Thomas kind of gives us some insight into this. A stereotypical Southern accent often is non-rhotic. The R is deleted. However, there is no one standard for Southern English. Some parts are more rhotic than others. Although lately it has been seen that the prestige variety is the rhotic variety. So, especially among women. So, if this movie is set in contemporary times, it makes sense for them to be using the R, saying that these are higher class characters in fancy houses, fancy clothes. If it's a period drama set, in the past, then you could expect it to be R-lessness or R-less, although most of the time the characters aren't. So we're kind of unsure what time they're set in, and this little inconsistency on the part of the actor, because he's not Southern, I'm not comfortable with saying, oh, this is just like free variation in his speech. It might just be a stereotypical production of a certain accent, just sort of deleting R's in this one case, and then maybe later kind of coming back with them. Maybe he was told by his accent coach that'd be more accurate. We don't really know, but yeah, that's the R situation.
So one more character who has an accent that we can see is the director of the film that the two actors are acting in. His name is Kingsley Stewart. He's portrayed by Jeremy Irons, pretty famous English actor, and his character is English as well. In fact, his voice in this film is practically the same as his standard speaking voice in real life. It's received pronunciation, so pretty much standard English accent, British accent. There are some pretty recognizably English phrases, at least they're non-American phrases, such as like "what the bloody hell is going on" or "beavering away" or "jolly good." Whether or not he actually would say these things in real life, I'm not sure, but they do seem to emphasize his Britishness almost. He is actually one of the most normal characters. He doesn't seem very surreal unlike the rest of the film. And many of his scenes kind of ground the film in reality. I think registered pronunciation, or received pronunciation, it's typically thought of as different, but also very standard and normal. So the fact that his accent has this sort of prestige to it can almost act as a way to signal security. Moments where he is present, we know that they are in a film, which is something that later on becomes very difficult to tell the difference about. So he's kind of this beacon of, where are we, what's going on right now, his presence. So I think this accent kind of gives him, or this dialect gives him some sort of authority over the film, which is, kind of associated with received pronunciation and its, differentness, but officialness or established nature.
All right. Well, this is a pretty complicated film. There's more I could have talked about for sure, but in the time frame I have, I just want to go over a couple examples and look at those. Obviously, this is all up to interpretation. Nothing is for sure, especially with this film. but I do think that analyzing a film from this perspective, from the way characters speak in terms of their dialects, it is actually a pretty valuable way to gain insight into characters, because dialects are so closely intertwined with a lot of elements of personal identity. And also it raises some interesting questions, particularly with the first character who, this fake accent, this stereotypical accent. Very little research has been done on this subject. So there's a lot of potential for, asking people to produce these stereotypical accents. What features do they believe are are indicative of this certain dialect? How do people perceive that, and then reproduce those? So there's a lot to look at in this film. This is just the tip of the iceberg, I would say. But I hope you've enjoyed this little talk about this film, and maybe I'll do some more. Thank you.